advocate, as executive director of Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Association. I'm looking to make sure I get that right. Working every day to this day. And again, we lost her husband, the late Tim Wapato, several years ago. And we lost her former colleague, Chairman Emeritus of the IGA Gaming Association, 3 years ago. And so we honor them. So I'm going to turn this over to Gay and let her tell us about her feelings. And then we're going to make the recognition of our Sovereign Warrior recipient today. And then we're going to watch Marquet do the dance. So Ms. Gay Kingman Wapato.
Hello, all my friends and relatives and the NIGA family. I say NIGA because when we started it was NIGA. I'd like to introduce Tim's two daughters here, Teresa Wapato and Kiana. When Tim was lieutenant of homicide in Los Angeles, they were little girls and grew up, and now they're left with me and the family, and but Tim left a beautiful family, and I'm so happy they came to share in this Tim Wapato Rick Hill Sovereign Warrior Award tonight. But it's my honor tonight to have to be here with you. It's been my life. I've worked for Indian tribes. This is my 60th year. I started teaching on Pine Ridge 1963. And I've worked for tribes, and they've gotten me into a lot of areas that I didn't know I'd ever get into. One was when Rick was a friend, a very good friend, and when he called and said he was running for the chairman of NIGA, and that was in 1992, asked if we could help, and we said, sure, you know, my husband Tim Wapato and I. And I had just left the National Congress of American Indians as executive director. Tim had just left the Commissioner of Administration for Native American Affairs. And we were on our way, we were gonna move back west, and we were working for the Southern California tribes, Siquan and Vejas. And so I said to Rick, I said, do you have a running mate? And he said, I hadn't thought about it. And I said, well, you know, we're working with Danny Tucker, chairman of Siquan. I said, think about it. And he called back and he said, I'll talk to Danny. He said, let me talk to him. So those two talked and they hit it off. And so it became Rick Hill and Tucker 2. And they ran for chairman of NIGA, 1992. And we worked on their campaign and they won. And Rick hit the ground running. He was still chairman of NIGA, but he soon found out about a year later that he better step down and just do NIGA work. So he did. But Senator Inouye said it. He said, you guys are getting beat up. The tribes are getting beat up in the media. They're getting beat up, you know, all across the country. Because the National Indian Gaming, the Regulatory Act had passed, and there was a NIGA, but they needed it in Washington, D.C. So that Rick and the new board said, your mission is to go to Washington, D.C. and set up an office there. So we said, okay. And At the board meeting, the first business, they put me in as Director of Public Relations. And then they put in my husband, Tim Wapato, as Executive Director. And like Granny said, our kitchen table was the boardroom, and our computer was in the dining room, and our files were in the back of Tim's town car. And we inherited a debt. There was no money. We inherited a debt. So our first conference, our first NIGA conference, was in Louisiana. And we had barely 100 people. And I look today at, where we are in NIGA, and Ernie's taking it upward and onward and everything, and it's phenomenal. And so that was how we started, but states wouldn't sign compacts with tribes, so we had to go to those states. Arizona was a big state. Fife-Symington refused to sign compacts with tribes. And so we had to go in, and we worked with the tribes and had rallies and talked to the legislature and everything. New Mexico, we had rallies there. And, North Dakota was the first state, and they signed compacts. But the rest of the states were really problems. And the other problem we had was the churches were saying, well, we don't want Indian gaming, and so they were about ready to sign a resolution opposing Indian gaming. So Tim, father, had been a minister. So Tim kind of knew how to quote the Bible and stuff. So we sent Tim to that meeting, and he talked with them. And he came away, and the churches agreed to stand down, not to oppose, and not to, they would do nothing, which was all right. And then the National Association of Chiefs of Police was going to oppose too, and they were ready to come out with a resolution of opposition to Indian gaming. And so here again, Tim being a former lieutenant law enforcement, they sent Tim to talk to them, and came away with them standing down. They didn't oppose. So all these things were going on, and we were battling in every state. We were dealing with Las Vegas. We were dealing with Trump. You all know the story about the Trump Protection Act. We dubbed it the Trump Protection Act, and Congress ended up not passing it. But thanks to Mille Lacs, we were pushing Indian gaming, that gaming was for government, and to develop schools and rest homes and like that. And so Mille Lacs sent in their children to the hearing, and they sat in that front row. And as the testimony was going on, and we were able to demonstrate, that this was Indian gaming. And so the Trump Protection Act failed. It did not get passed, and Indian gaming continued. So all of these things that, I was talking about this one day at one of the sessions at NIGA, and somebody said, why did they oppose Indian gaming, And of course today, people don't realize we stand on the shoulders of people that came before us. And that's what this is about. But the main thing is, it's about our sovereignty. All the tribes across this nation stood on tribal sovereignty. It's a sovereign right of tribes to game, to do economic development. And that's still today. We're constantly fighting to protect our sovereignty. And they want to make us a race of people It's not that. We're sovereign governments, sign treaties with the United States government to government. And I applaud President Biden because he says that. He does say government to government. And he gets it. So those are some of the things that happened. Rick had a phenomenal ability to pull people together.